Andrew here, and signs and portents. Reading the tea leaves. A long time ago, during the middle frame of the trucker protest, before Dumb and Dumber Blackface Hitler brought down martial law because he was pissed off that little old grannies in the street weren't respecting his authority, I noted there was that I thought we were in the early stages of a preference cascade, where things change very slowly and then all of a sudden. It's like, I think I reference, there was a wealthy man, a rich man in the Depression was asked, how did you go broke? And he said, well, slowly at first and then all of a sudden. And that's all a preference cascade is. Opinions change very slowly, very slowly, very slowly, very slowly, and then it falls off a cliff all of a sudden. And when the few hundred truckers amassed in Port Coquitlam, BC, and I don't even think they were supposed to drive farther than Calgary or something, but Dumb and Dumber Blackface Hitler called them a bunch of racist, misogynist, science-denying wastes of space, basically. And then suddenly they were, they increased by an order of magnitude overnight, and then another order of magnitude after that. They increased tenfold, 100-fold in days, because calling people a bunch of racist, science-denying extremists, white supremacists just taking up space, for some reason it upset people. And they got so much attention so fast, and it went all around the world, and it caused a preference cascade in changing. And it was within 2 weeks that our fat fascist premier decided that the science, Kieran Moore, 4 days after Ford got a phone call from 250 of his most important donors, backers, telling him this shit's got to stop, this has got to end, open the province up. Suddenly, Dr. Kieran Moore, I'm just data-driven, found the data to open us up. The preference cascade happened right there. And there were signs leading up to it. And I'm wondering, are we starting to see some of the signs and portents of the next preference cascade? You still need your vaccine passport to get into the United States or Canada if you're a non-citizen. If you're not a citizen, if you're returning from somewhere, the fascist pukes at the border can't stop you from coming in if you have a valid Canadian passport. Read the front page of your passport. They can't stop you from coming in. Probably says the same thing in the American passport going that way. However, if you're not vaccinated and you want to go to the United States, you're not getting on an airplane, probably. I've heard you're okay driving over the border, that it's hit or miss, but most of the border guards aren't asking. But that's actually one of the signs and portents, that it's not top of the mind. They're more concerned with getting traffic moving, getting people flowing, than they are with a bad head cold and whether you've got one. And before anybody who hasn't been around long jumps on me for calling COVID a bad head cold, I had it. My 3 children all had it. The longest one who had it was the old fart, and I already was sick before I got it, and it took less than 3 days. It was a bad cold. Anyway, don't want to get into that. What I'm wondering is, where are we in the next phase? And one of the things about the next phase, these damn beard hairs, they get in, they go up, and they tickle my nose, drives me crazy. Anyway, I'll try and remember to edit that little bit out. There'll be a funny blip in this video. Anyway, what's been happening? I have mentioned that disgusting cow, well, she's not fat, that disgusting, vile Leanna Wen. She was the head of Planned Parenthood, and then she moved on to somewhere in infectious diseases or something, and she was absolutely infamous in the United States for being an absolute lockdown Maoist. And I don't know if it was deleted, but I'm getting ahead of myself here. She believed the unvaccinated should live under house arrest. And there are the tweets to prove it. I don't know if she's deleted them, but people have screen capped them. And she believed that unvaccinated Americans should not be allowed out of their homes. She put a column in one of the papers and condensed it into a Twitter thread, basically saying, I fucked my son's development, and my kids are now going to a mask-free school. She was one of the mask psychos. She was one of the vaccine psychos. But it's hit home. Her 2-year-old boy has developmental difficulties. He's got speech difficulties. I talked about that in an earlier video, the rise in speech therapy references. We destroyed a generation of children. I don't know a lot about the early neurological development of the human body. My specialty is in thin-walled injection molded plastics and 3D curvature and acceleration continuous surfacing. I'm a mechanical engineer. What's happening with the neurological development in children? I'm passing knowledge from books I read out of interest. What I do know is I raised 3 children through that age, and the amount of things, the number of connections, the things that they're learning, the development in them at those critical 1, 2, 3-year-old ages is beyond imagination if you haven't seen it, if you haven't gone through it. And her boy got fucked by policies that she championed. And she's realized it's hit just a little too close to home. Well, I've seen some other things. Fascist Birx wrote a book, and she said social distancing, lockdowns, none of this stuff had any science. We had no data. We just wanted it, and we needed it. And we knew if we could browbeat Trump into doing it for 2 weeks, we could drag it out. Now, in a sane and civilized society, she'd be in an orange jumpsuit for crimes against humanity for this. Unfortunately, the United States is no longer sane and civilized, and she's never going to see the inside of a prison cell, much less the inside of a noose. But the confessions are coming out that all we have left, the malignant garden gnome is still saying that he is science. If you doubt Anthony Unfallible Fauci, you doubt science. He's still an arrogant little shit. He hasn't turned, but funny enough, he's resigning, or at least he's leaving his position. Some of the big names, they're turning. Why? What are they getting ahead of? I don't know. Maybe nothing. Signs and portents. Are we finally coming into the final cascade, the final preference cascade? Lawsuits for vaccine injuries are being settled. The Australian government is now backtracking from its mandate, saying, oh, no, we never forced anybody to take it. You took it voluntarily. If you're hurt, we know. We're backpedaling. Backpedal. Signs and portents. Do they mean anything? Well, they mean something. But are they as big as I hope them to be? Who knows? Only time will tell. And speaking of time, thank you very much for watching. That was my time. Now is your time. And in the meantime, keep an eye on the tea leaves. Take care of yourself, and you'll see me soon.